Have you ever played in an evil campaign? Like a truly evil campaign where you all are wickedly abhorrent, your morals tattered, your will forced upon the world as those who stand in your way are but a means to an end? Well, maybe you have, but not in the way that you think. Most of what we call evil campaigns aren't really evil. Your rogue steals from a tax collector, that's morally gray. The warlock makes a deal with a demon to save their village, that's anti-hero. Or just people forced to ugly choices due to the regime that bears down on them, that's not evil, that's just authoritarianism. But a truly evil campaign? Those are rare. And when they happen, they often collapse under their own weight. Because a lot of truly evil campaigns are boring. Hi, I go by Guy, and today I want to talk about why evil campaigns usually don't work and what you can do to make them actually fun. Firstly, let's hit the nail on the head. A lot of people go into evil campaigns with no goals. If your only motivation is stab and kill because I'm evil, then you've already written yourself into a narrative corner.
He must have succeeded in killing all life here. He seems really depressed.
Because you have no story hooks. The novelty of edgy runs out pretty fast. Secondly, evil groups tend to just fall apart. Evil characters are inherently selfish, meaning backstabbing, stealing, PvP, betrayal, all the things that usually don't get discussed in Session 0. While dramatic in theory, it's chaotic in practice. The Session 4 party implosion in a TPK is inevitable. Lastly, the shock value doesn't last. As we see in Blood Meridian or in Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2, there's only so many inhumane acts you could commit before the horror becomes routine. And eventually, the routine becomes mundane. The opposite of what we expect in an RPG. Being evil is like hot sauce. It's intense, it brings depth, but you can't make a meal out of spice. And too much makes you numb to everything else. Now, this isn't to say that evil campaigns are bad. In fact, they can be fascinating experiences when done right. And in order to do that, we can do the following. For one, evil has to have a goal. And this can be literally anything. Conquering the kingdom, building up your criminal empire, literally stealing every single baby's candy in the kingdom, sure, as long as everyone is on board. Evil becomes interesting when there is a meaning and ideology behind it, not when it's just evil for evil's sake. The systems around evil also have to be compelling. Are you in a cult? An assassin's guild? Maybe you all just really worship a god that hates babies with candy. When you do this, suddenly you're not just doing random bad stuff. You're building something. This gives story and structure to both the players and the GM, and it makes it all the much more of a dynamic experience for everyone involved. And speaking of the GM, the world has to react to the villains. When someone goes missing in town, do the guards rise up and try to find you? Are you hunted down by bounty hunters? Where are the other adventurers at? The tables flip drastically when you're an evil party, and the world should reflect that. Lastly, what separates an evil mook from an evil villain is motivation. Walter White, Anakin Skywalker. These are characters that have spiraled into corruption because of what happened to them and the environment and circumstances that they're in. They're compelling. It's what makes the difference between Vecna's obsession with godhood and stabby, edgy rogue. Blech. So, what makes an evil campaign work? First, Session 0 is a non-negotiable. I always advocate for this in any sort of session or campaign, but this is especially true in an evil campaign. The amount of campaigns that have ended because someone pushed the limit too far or did something that was uncomfortable with the other players at the table is insurmountable. I mean, you can go into any sort of D&D horror story and you'll find it. This is the time where we set clear boundaries, what evil means to everyone and what's off limits at the table. Veils and lines are no longer a suggestion, they're mandatory. But it's also the place where you all swear yourselves to an evil agenda, you all unify towards a cause. Whether that's conquering that kingdom, or defeating an enemy faction, or stealing every baby's candy in the kingdom. The campaigns that fall apart are the ones where everyone has their own individual goals and objectives in mind. Everyone has their own little evil plan. Or where the only motivation is vague stuff like survive or get rich or profit. That's when the party starts to dissolve into a giant free-for-all with everyone just scattered, not really caring about the other intentions of other players at the table. It turns into a free-for-all murder spree, and suddenly the evil campaign is just a tavern brawl with extra paperwork. That doesn't mean that players can't have their own ambitions and goals or even betrayals down the line. In fact, that sounds like it'll make for very fascinating and great gameplay. It just means that those twists and goals need to align with the story that everyone is trying to build together. And this is all decided at session 0, and just communicated throughout the campaign. Next, in a similar vein, the party should aim their evil externally, not internally. That is to say, villainy should be directed towards the world, not at each other. At least not all the time. Because if every session is PvP, that's not really a fun campaign. That just sounds like a tavern brawl, which could be fun, but not to me. Another thing that we should do is to really try to lean into that theme of evil, like really getting creative with it. What rituals do we perform? Do we have a uniform or some sort of brand that shows that we're all a part of the same evil group? What propaganda are we spreading? I want to know more about what we're doing as an evil group. Putting together these things is not only good for backstory and just for being involved in the game, it's fun and it's creative. Because evil isn't just throwing dice at random cruelty, it's created, it's crafted. It's the players weaving a dark culture of their own design, and then watching how that darkness spreads across the world. And lastly, and probably most importantly, make the world respond. Where there is darkness, there is light. Where there is yang, there is yin. Where there are villains, there are heroes. Do not let the world stay stagnant. If people go missing in a city because your party is taking them out, have adventurers investigate it. If you are corrupting the land in some dark ritual, send a crusade after them. The world is alive for everyone in a role-playing game, and it feels more alive when it's not on your side. Honestly, nothing makes a villain feel real than the world pushing back against you. So we've talked about evil campaigns, and I use these air quotes with intention. And that's because I think there's a language issue that comes in when we're trying to frame these campaigns as evil campaigns. When we hear evil, we may think that mustache twirling villain. Maybe we may think more of a political evil. Maybe we may think of we have a castle and there's a dark lord and maybe we're liches. Everyone's definitions of evil are different. But maybe what you want from an evil campaign is different. Maybe it's not really evil at all. For example, maybe you want a dark fantasy campaign, grim, a place where power corrupts you slowly. Maybe you want a tragedy campaign, where PCs start good, but then the events of the world eventually begin to turn them over to some darker purpose. As the game goes on, everyone knows that they're doomed. But the fun is watching how it all unravels. Just like the ambitions of the group, the framing of the campaign matters just as much. If you say evil, it leaves too much vagueness. But if you frame it as a dark fantasy where the power eventually corrupts you all, and you find out that you have to start turning against the people you once loved, That's drama. If only there was a system that offered some sort of frame that showed you exactly the expectations and some of the inspirations of what the game would feel like before you even started playing. I guess we'll never know. So maybe the real issue isn't that evil campaigns are boring, but that badly designed evil campaigns tend to fall flat. But if you give your players ambition, structure, and story, being a villain can feel pretty good. Wait a second. But I want to hear from you. Have you all played in an evil campaign that actually worked? What made it fun? Or what made it crash and burn? I'm all ears in the comments. Drop your stories in them. I'll be sure to read them all. But once again, I go by Guy, and thank you for watching.